So we'll proceed in I'll give it like another 5 minutes, and then we'll get started. And if anybody joins late, they'll catch up, or they will be able to review the beginning on YouTube. All right, so in about another minute, I'm gonna go and get started so we could be mindful of everybody's time. And yeah, anybody that logs on will just be able to, they could always review the beginning. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Um, so thank you for joining the Mount Sinai Adaptive Clothing webinar. So let me give you a brief introduction to what adaptive clothing is. Adaptive clothing is clothing designed for people with physical disabilities or the elderly who may experience difficulty dressing themselves due to an inability to manipulate closures, such as buttons and zippers, or due to lack of a full range of motion required for self-dressing. The Mount Sinai Adaptive Clothing webinar will today be hosting panelists and industry pioneers such as Dave Stevens, representing the Runway of Dreams, Saba Kamaras from Spoonie Threads, Izzy, the founder of Is Adaptive, Yasmin Keats from Open Style Lab, and Tracy Vollbrecht from Vollbrecht Adaptive Consultant. So, as for the panelists, if y'all want to give like maybe a brief intro of what y'all do, y'all role in the adaptive clothing community, feel free to do so. I'll start Dave. We could start with Dave Stevens from the Runway of Dreams, and he could give a brief intro to his role in the adaptive clothing community. And then from there, I will follow with some questions, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. All right. So, not to hold y'all any longer. So, Dave, would you like to give us a brief intro to who you are and what you do for the adaptive clothing community?
Yes, sorry, I'm having some computer issues. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine, and we
Okay.
can see you, just to make you
All
aware.
right. Trying to get this set up so it doesn't fall and I can back away and be seen and heard. Yeah, I'm having issues with a laptop that I can't get to shut down, when you do Zoom calls and other things. But let's see. Maybe I'll do it this way so it's easier. All right. So I apologize. Um,
No, no worries.
okay, there we go. My name is Dave Stevens. I am a board member of Runway of Dreams. Mindy brought me in a couple of years ago. My story is that I was born without legs, but I played minor league baseball and college football in Minnesota, and worked 20 years at ESPN, won 7 Emmys, been in television for 40 years. And Mindy reached out to me to give me an award at a Runway of Dreams as an influencer, and it opened my eyes up to the world of adaptive fashion. And I've been so blessed and excited to work with Izzy Adaptive. I'm wearing one of the bomber shirt coats right now, and I've had Silverts that has given me clothes that I've been able to wear at Major League, NFL fields, all kinds of things to show that you don't have to be embarrassed with a disability to look good, and how this adaptive fashion world not only it is a profitable thing, but it also gives people with disabilities a confidence, that confidence that you can't teach. You have to feel it. And for those of us with disabilities where people stare at us every day of our life, being able to dress normal and fit into society and have one less thing to worry about if my jeans don't fit, or how do I put things over artificial limbs, or all the kind of things that we deal with. So I've been very blessed and thankful to be a part of Runway of Dreams, and to see the models and all of the changes that are happening. And now it's my job to kind of go out there and let people see that, hey, just because you have a disability doesn't mean you can't look good.
Thank you for that. All right. So next we can move to Izzy. Would you like to share your role in the adaptive clothing community?
Sure. Um, I started doing adaptive clothing way back in 2004. And it was strictly by someone contacting me who was a wheelchair user, power chair user, and she was looking for some custom clothes. And I had no idea the struggles that she had with clothes, the limitations. Um, just so many things. It was such an eye-opening experience making these custom pieces for her that I just started to think like if she's got all these problems with clothes, there's got to be a lot of other people there with the same issues. So I had worked with her for a few years, and then in 2009, I started as adaptive, and I I have been called a pioneer in the space because there was really nobody doing what I was doing. And except there was clothing out there for the elderly or for people living in long-term care facilities that was pretty dated. And in terms of the style and the even the fit, uh, and this woman was a journalist, and she was, she wasn't she didn't want to dress in clothing that was geared to the elderly. She wanted to look professional. She wanted to look attractive, and so that's when I kind of saw this big void in the fashion space for people that live with a physical disability. So because of her being a wheelchair user, I really focused on seated frames. And so I do specialize in clothing for people that use a wheelchair, but not exclusive to that either. So over the years, we've developed a lot of different styles, from bottoms to coats to tops, and just my intention from the start was to start with wardrobe basics and to really build out people's wardrobe and not make it too fashionable or too stylish, because I wanted to really kind of cater to as many people as possible, and through people's own personal style they can style it and make it be who they are in terms of their style. And our most recent work is a seamless back pant, which helps reduce the risk of developing a pressure sore for people that are seated for a long periods of time. So yeah, so that's me.
Thank you for sharing, Izzy. So next we will move to Saba from Spoonie Threads.
Hello, everyone. I started working in fashion in traditional women's ready-to-wear in 2008, and I was working in New York. I did that for about 8 years and was very kind of disillusioned with the traditional fashion industry. Felt like it was fun, but I wasn't doing anything that was really providing any kind of purpose. So at that time, I was applying to graduate schools to get a business degree. And my niece was born, and she was born with a terminal form of muscular dystrophy and had a G tube put in when she was just a few days old. And that really opened my eyes to the world of adaptive fashion and how a simple thing like an opening or a zipper in the right place could really transform a person or caregiver's interaction with a medical device. And so as I was going through my business school, I wanted to develop this idea further. And I actually got connected with Dr. Julie Sanchez, who's a pediatric surgeon in Austin, Texas. And she had basically already company. And she realized that her need was recognizing that patient care doesn't end when someone is discharged from the hospital. She was connecting with patients and starting to understand that their lives, she puts in G tubes and ostomies and other types of life-saving devices into children. And she was starting to recognize the immense impact that it had on their lives when they went home, and recognizing the need from a medical point of view as well as just a personal point of view to address that need and make improved quality clothing and accessories. So I connected with her in Austin and joined on, and we rebranded her original company as Spoonie Threads back in 2021. Our little niche within the adaptive space is sort of focused on medical device access and support. We want to cater to as many people as possible, but we have found that, clothing and accessories for feeding tubes, ostomies, chemo ports, PICC lines, things like that have really been a space that we've been able to develop a lot of products and gain a lot of customer feedback. And that's an area that we didn't see too many other people working in that space. And so I'm glad that we've been able to try and provide a product for those users.
Thank you so much for that introduction. All right, so now we're going to move on to Yasmin from Open Style Lab.
Hi, everyone, and Garrison, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Yasmin Keats, and I'm the Executive Director of Open Style Lab. Open Style Lab was started in 2015 out of MIT, and then we moved to Parsons School of Design, and our main focus within this area is really around education of designers, people with disabilities, occupational therapists, and engineers. And we run a 8 to 10 week summer program where we bring together designers, engineers, OTs, or PTs, and people with disabilities to design together stylish and functional clothing, wearables, products. I think we really saw a gap in education, and I'm now also part-time lecturer at the Royal College of Art, and it's great to see that places are starting to become more aware of teaching it as well. But we really saw that once you see it, and I'm sure many of the panelists and many people here can attest, once you see someone dress and you can't unsee it. And once you go through the process of co-design, you can't unsee it either. Personally, I was born with a physical disability. My mother had chickenpox when she was pregnant with me. So I had nerve damage in my right leg and my lower back. But I also came from a family of architects and designers. I myself went to study architecture and then worked as a graphic designer for about 6 years before I joined Open Style Labs. And so I saw very much firsthand how important it was, how design can uplift you, can empower you. I not only saw it within myself, but I saw it with my grandmother as well when she had got Parkinson's, and we started to have a lot of these conversations. And when I started at Open Style Labs, I started as a researcher. So it was a very humbling experience for the first 2 years. All I did was talk to people with disabilities about their experience with design, and start to collect these stories and understand, create educational material around how it not only affects day-to-day life, but how it affects self-esteem, social participation, confidence, well-being, and can be a vehicle for helping to remove stigma. In Open Style Labs, we have, I think, maybe 3 to 4 pillars. Our main thing is education of designers and industry. We also do a lot of research and a lot of community awareness and raising awareness, where we bring the community to do workshops, provide resources. And yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. And now let's move on to Tracy.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I'm Tracy Vollbrecht. I am the founder of Vollbrecht Adaptive Consulting, which is my consulting company that I launched after working at Juniper Unlimited as the founding designer for Yarrow and Ulex, which were two adaptive or universally designed brands. So I had some experience in the design world as a designer, helping to launch brands. And then from there, I really transitioned into this kind of cool, kind of day-to-day varies consulting work, which allows me to do awesome things like this and work with the people here on the panelists. I definitely, Izzy mentioned that she has been called a pioneer. I have for sure called her that. I've worked with Yasmin as a research assistant at Open Style Lab, and so get to do all of these different types of work, including launching a course all around adaptive fashion, which I'm currently in the process of launching. So if you're interested in learning more after the panel, I'm sure all of us panelists would love for you to check out the work that we do.
Thank you, Tracy. And to each of you, the work that y'all doing is incredible. And y'all helping making this world more inclusive and accessible for everyone. So thank you for that. And now I would like to proceed. So we have a few questions. So some of these questions, multiple panelists may be able to answer. Some questions may just be specific to the panelist that works directly in the industry that the question addresses. But we will proceed, and yeah, and if anything, I will call on panelists if no one wants to answer it. But so for the first question, how does adaptive clothing address specific challenges faced by individuals with disabilities? So I'll leave it open for any one of you to answer. So you could go one by one, or whoever feels comfortable with starting it off could start it off, however you want to do it.
I can start it off. I can speak to what we do at Spoonie Threads. Is a lot of the challenges that we have are just accessing a medical device or supporting it without interfering with how it functions. So the initial inspiration that Dr. Sanchez came across was a boy who had trouble understanding why he had a feeding tube. And his mother was very concerned about him ripping the G button out, which happens frequently with all kinds of children. And one of the things that she initially developed was the concept of a bodysuit or a onesie that had openings to access the device in order for the parent to get the feeding tube out or connect it to the feeding bag overnight for overnight feeds, things like that. But the tube itself, the button was covered by fabric. So it was harder for the kid to grab in and reach it and pull it out. And so that's just one example of things that we do. We have to think a lot about, what is the problem that may be caused by traditional clothing that's not adaptive around these medical devices, and how can we create a product that allows for improved function and improved quality of life, while also allowing people to have a little bit more freedom of expression with their clothing choices. So they're not limited to, the same one or two items over and over. How can we make, the dressing process allow them more independence when dressing, allow them more freedom of personal expression when choosing what to wear? So those are some of the challenges that we try to meet when designing our products.
Thank you, Saba. Does anybody else want to jump in on this question?
Sure, I can.
All right.
So for us, we, initially I worked with that one person, and then I started working with another one and another person, and then started meeting more and more people, and just became a sponge and learned what the common issues are for, let's say, wheelchair users or for people with limited mobility or function. And like, I know that I'm not going to be able to serve or to be able to be, everybody's answer to clothing. But, for us, just by focusing on a seated frame, we are able to take a garment to a certain point that is going to be way more comfortable for them to wear. It's going to be safer. But then let's say if they've got one leg that sits a little higher than the other, or, if they needed to hem their pants or anything like that, they can just go to a tailor and do that. The pants have already been modified to follow the line of a seated person. Or if you have dexterity issues, our coats all have magnets, for example. And at the same time, the clothes are well made, they're stylish. And so it's kind of a meld of fashion and function at the same time. So there's no sacrifice on style just because it is adaptive clothing. Style is there, and then the function is there.
Thanks, Izzy. That was a great point that you brought up. Not sacrificing on the style, because I did hear a lot of individuals, one of their critiques about adaptive clothing is that it's not stylish enough for them. So I really like how you addressed that. So move on to question two. Some of you kind of answered some of this, but I'll share it and anybody else could jump in on it. Can you share examples of innovative design features in adaptive clothing that enhance accessibility?
I can jump in on this question.
Okay.
My favorite feature that I love, and I love when any brand uses it, so it's not specific to one brand, is the MagZip zipper. So that's the zipper that has the magnetic base at the bottom. It's super easy to use anytime I show anyone who has a disability or not. I think Dave might have it. Yep, he's shown us a little demo there. Super easy. Again, anyone who has a disability or doesn't have a disability, anytime I show them, they're always like, oh my God, I need this in every jacket. So I definitely always talk about that to anyone who will listen. And then some other features that I really like to kind of pull from or reference are actually a lot of features that are in performance wear. So like hiking clothes or workout clothes, various things like innovative fabrics or vents for temperature regulation, airflow, those kind of things that can really be incorporated into everyday clothes.
And I'll just throw in, because of the world that I'm in, where I'm at events and Super Bowls and things like that, I've been proud to wear this coat that Izzy, gave me at when we met in New York. And, I tag it, I show it off when I'm in things, people look at it, and to your point, as far as the magnets and everything, in my world of the different abled people, when they find out about, and I whip open the shirt, and the magnets just kind of pull apart, and they kind of laugh and see. But for the nice thing about Runway of Dreams is that it showcases kids and things like that. But the real world is that we are the adults that actually need these products. And to be able to showcase it and show people that here I am interviewing a major league manager, and I don't look horrible because I'm wearing adaptive clothing. And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, it gives that confidence that we can feel equal, we can feel normal, that we have that ability to dress and look and not just wear the same old, big fat man shirt to cover up everything, or those kind of things. So, I hope that these retailers understand that there is a market for this, and that we do have money to spend. And unlike jeans, where you can just get a size, this is a tough world, because what Izzy does for one person might not work for another person. But given her skills and your guys' skills to adapt, it's easy to open that up for discussion, to say, okay, this percentage of people might need this, so let's go back to the drawing board and let's open it up for this. So kudos to what you guys are doing, and just my world, being able to showcase it and show things that, even if they don't work for me, like Silver, it's adaptive, will send me things to wear, and I'll wear it. But I don't need a back that opens up in the back, but somebody with a colostomy bag, or somebody that is stuck in a wheelchair, might need that. So if I can showcase that and open it up for them, I'm going to continue to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to move forward to the next question. What considerations go into creating adaptive clothing that is both functional and stylish? So I believe y'all touched on this a few moments ago, but we could further elaborate.
I'll go for this one.
All right.
So I think one example was in our co-design process. One example I want to share is a young girl that came to us called Eliza, who had autism. And her mother was saying how she was literally ripping the clothes off her body because she was so uncomfortable, and would go through one t-shirt a day. And so what we did was we designed, it was very important that she was part of the process. She loved to make collages. So we incorporated those patterns within the design. She was working with the designers. So also that emotional attachment of being part of that process. We use bonding technology so that the edges couldn't be picked in the same way, and seamless technology. So there was only one seam at the back. And it was the combination of technology, but also I think very much the emotional attachment aspect, that it was something that she had pride in. And, you know, as Dave has said, the importance of feeling good and feeling that pride in what you wear. But we also try to incorporate that within the process of the making.
Thanks, Yasmin. Does anybody else want to respond to this question?
Go ahead, Izzy.
Oh,
All right. So Izzy and Saba.
okay, yeah, I'll just be brief. I think also incorporating good fit and good like structure in the clothes, so that for people that are sitting all day long, for example, like jeans, a normal pair of jeans for a standing ambulatory person, when you sit in a pant like that, they kind of cut into your gut, they ride down at the back. So just manipulating the pattern so that it's not pushing against your stomach and it's not riding down at the back. So manipulating it so that it's comfortable, but then designing, let's say, a pair of jeans, you just make them look like a normal pair of jeans. So when people wear our jeans, for example, they just look like they're wearing a regular pair of jeans, and there's no compromise on style and there's no compromise on fit. And you can be in these pants and not feel uncomfortable when you're sitting all day long. I had one woman where it actually affected her breathing when she was wearing, you know, just off the shelf, ready to wear jeans. So our jeans were just a lot more comfortable and safer for her to wear. So I'll end it there.
Thank you for that. And Saba, your turn.
Or I just wanted to add one point that Dave mentioned. Something that can work for a wide range of customers, because even, you know, a seated user, they may be seated for a variety of different reasons. They may have different ranges of mobility. They may have different needs. So it is really hard to sometimes make a mass product. And I think one of the things is considering our customer and thinking about any like co-uses of devices, you know, how many people that have a feeding tube also have a chest port, or who also have a PICC line, and how can we design a product that can but also when you don't need a certain function, still looks good. For example, we have one hoodie that has zippers at the chest, so you can access your chest port. You can use it for breastfeeding. You can use it for, you know, other kinds of like chest surgical recovery. It has an abdominal pocket. You can put a medical device in there. You can access the feeding tube. But there are things that are very hidden to where, you know, if you had a feeding tube but you didn't have a chest port, well, you just have a hoodie that has zippers. It doesn't look garment. And I think that's something that it is definitely a design challenge, but it is something that I think is necessary in order to try and reach a broader range of customers without having to sacrifice style.
And I think Saba, to Saba's point, there are sometimes too where you think you anticipate you're getting a product that will work for you, just like the shorts that they sent me, that basically open up in the back, which again are great for people to transfer in a wheelchair to go to the bathroom. But when I'm on the ground and my rear end is exposed to other baseball players and things like that, you don't realize that. That wasn't for me. So there's a lot of those things in the processes that I think the checks and balances and things like that that go into these products too, that I think we're a different market because we have so many vast needs that it takes a lot of consideration for each product.
All right. I'd like to thank each of you for your answers. Y'all really hit what the question was asking. So with that, we're going to move forward to the next question, which is, how does adaptive fashion contribute to promoting inclusivity in the fashion industry? I believe, Dave, this would be a good question for you to answer right here.
Well, I've done my best, and I hope Izzy and all those that have created have enjoyed seeing their products in mainstream society, because there aren't a lot of us with disabilities that are wearing products made for us. And I think it's more and more important to get that out there and to get these products into the hands of those people, so that we open up those opportunities for, a Kohl's or other companies to start using Izzy's products and to start using these things and to get us out there. It's important for everybody in our world of the seen and unseen disabilities to, be the influencers and to share that. I don't know if we do that enough, that when we see something that you're doing or I'm doing, that we're not also, I try to make sure I tag Izzy's stuff, or if it's Silver to whoever. But a lot of times those in our world aren't sure, I like that, how can I get that, or doing that kind of thing. So I think if we are those influencers, to the point of the question, we've got to do a better job. We've got to be able to say, I got this and this and I'm in this, and make that part of our presentation. When I'm on stage, I talk about, hey, I work for Runway of Dreams on the board, and look what I'm wearing. Look at this, this bomber jacket that I'm wearing. I've got that confidence to be on stage and talk about my life. And so, if we can't get those big corporations to pick us up and start doing mainstream commercials and things like us, being out there, being the actors and the models wearing these products, then we have to do it ourselves and to help each other.
Thanks, Dave. Tracy, I would like to know your perspective, being that you are a consultant in the adaptive fashion industry.
Yeah, definitely. I was just about to chime in there
Okay.
in terms in terms of promoting inclusivity. Dave really exemplified this, that if you don't have the products you need to get out there, to be confident on stage, or to go to work, or really any of that, day-to-day living, if you don't have the clothes and tools you need to do that, you're not going to be able to go out. Apparel can really be a gatekeeper. And so in my consulting work, I really love to bring that up to the clients that I work with and say, just think about, who you can reach, and then what they can do with the products that you can create, or the products that you make that can enable them to do more and, really increase representation.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. If anybody else wants to respond, if not, I'll move forward to the next question. All right. So, are there specific materials or technologies that are commonly used in the production of adaptive clothing? And what I mean by materials is there specific like clothing, like a specific materials such as like cottons and polyesters that are more of a preference when designing adaptive clothing, or is there any like specific like magnets or loops and things of that nature that really increase the accessibility of adaptive clothing? Izzy.
Yeah, I can start. For us, I always depending on the garment, but most of our garments, the fabrics I choose all have stretch so that they're more comfortable. You know, I know again with wheelchair users, especially people that are paralyzed, waistlines, waistlines, sorry, expand throughout the day just from organ settling. So just having that give in the garments and really helps with comfort. So, and also, you know, range of movement for people that are manually pushing their chair. You know, usually people, you know, just need that extra room in the back. So having a garment stretch is great. And yeah, like where we can apply magnets, we do. So magnets are good, putting zipper pulls on zippers so that if you have issues gripping, you can always stick your finger through a loop and pull your zippers up. But yeah, and then just, you know, being mindful of skin and making sure that our fabrics are very soft and not abrasive, or sometimes with some people, weight is an issue. And so keeping our fabrics on the lighter side as opposed to heavy, like physically heavy. Yeah, so those are some of the considerations that we and I keep in mind when I'm choosing fabrics and or closures and things like that.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to respond?
Yeah, we found similar situations in where we in our products we use a combination of Velcro, snaps, zippers, magnets, and one thing we don't do is magnets with children's clothing because Julie is a pediatric surgeon and has seen too many things of magnets coming in. You know, children that have swallowed them. But for adults, it's and older kids, it is definitely a really, really helpful tool. And I think that we've kind of gone back and forth so many times with, you know, do we want an invisible zipper that makes something more discreet, or do we want an exposed zipper with a larger pull that makes it easier to pull? And really, we found that the thing is you need both versions to try and get as many people as possible. You know, the snap tape that we use in a lot of our garments is super helpful for people that have continuous lines, because you can, you know, open up the area, you can connect to your port, connect to your feeding tube, to connect to whatever, and then close it back up. And have the line coming through the snaps, you know. But then if it's something to where you want something that's either just like open or closed, and the snaps can be cumbersome, or if you have limited dexterity, then that becomes difficult to do a snap, and like a larger zipper pull is a lot easier. So I think it's one of those things where there's not just one answer. It's, you know, you need to have a range of options so that every consumer can find the right option that is going to fit their unique need. And not just consumers with disabilities, but really anyone, I think, can find that additional access points or different types of pulls or zippers or magnets are really beneficial. You know, I don't like to sit and button my shirt up every day. If I had a shirt with magnets, I mean, that's great. Like who doesn't want a little bit more convenience in their life? You know, I don't think that we have to consider adaptive design as something that is limited to people with disabilities. It can be something that can improve dressing for everyone.
Thanks,
I'll
Saba.
also,
Tracy wants to.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, sorry about that, Garrison.
No
I will also
problem.
add the one technology, I'm putting it in very loose air quotes, that really does actually apply across the board. Making sure that clothing is machine washable. That, I know it sounds like nothing, but making sure that you don't need to take your clothing to a dry cleaner or care for it a different way. Just something that simple can really make a difference in someone's lives, whether they're, you know, a busy mom who has 1,001 things to do, or someone with a disability that can't, you know, easily take their clothes down the street or, you know, 15 minutes away to go to the dry cleaner. Something as simple as machine wash and ideally machine dry.
Tracy. All right, so just to move things along, we're going to go to the next question. What role do user feedback and collaboration play in the development of adaptive clothing lines and adaptive clothing?
I'll go for this one.
All right.
So with us, it's all around putting these multidisciplinary teams together with the user throughout the whole process. So, for example, looking at how someone dresses and gets something on and off. We one time designed, it's maybe going a little bit into the last question, but designed an outfit that our board member Christina could wear when she has dual arm paralysis. When she goes on business trips and can't get dressed with someone, like someone isn't there, and using a lot of loops around the room. So it was looking at how do what are also the situations that people want to dress in those different spaces. Like for her, she was looking at professional wear, wanting to be independent. And so kind of thinking about all of those things, but the importance of having that feedback and having people within the process. And I really admire a lot of the designers here that have a design line and we design for innovation in terms of like a one example. But keeping that feedback throughout is a whole different challenge. So I'd love to bring it to one of the other panelists now for that perspective.
Well, we actually started working. We developed recently an adaptive fit model consultant program for our work at Spoonie Threads because we all of our products have been inspired by a particular user who had a certain need, and they connected with our company or they connected with Dr. Sanchez and said, "Hey, I'm having an issue with this, and can you help me?" And so we would always develop a prototype and then send it back to that person and get their feedback and iterate on the design until we felt like it was something that we could bring to market. And that process, it was nice to have that informal connection, but we really felt like we need to compensate people in the community for the feedback and the expertise that they are providing to us. And we need to have a wider range of feedback for products because we're trying to design on a more mass scale. We're not doing one-off products. And it's very difficult to do that without getting additional feedback. So we have interviewed a large number of people, and basically we connect with individuals depending on the product that we have, and we say, okay, we have, if we're working on a shirt that has pick line access. Okay, well, these consultants have that need. Let's, get together a focus group with them. Let's get their feedback on the design concepts. Let's send them prototypes. We'll do virtual fittings. So they're heavily, heavily involved in the process of our design. I don't think we could do anything without feedback from the community because there's no way that we would have the knowledge of what someone in a wheelchair or what someone with a certain medical device actually needs when we don't have that condition ourselves. Everyone on our team maybe has some sort of connection with a disability or has a disability, but it may not be for the product that we are designing. So without that feedback, we couldn't really do anything.
Thank you. Do anybody else want to respond to this question? Hey, Izzy. Yep.
Yeah, so feedback is always welcome, and sometimes, we also get a lot of suggestions and people telling us what works for them. But we can't do individual custom work. That's just too difficult. But so once we keep hearing the same thing over and over from more and more people, then that's when we'll consider applying a detail or a design into the clothing. And I always keep an open mind, and I'm always listening and learning. And even sometimes people will tell me something, let's say like a hack that their grandmother always does with their clothes. And sometimes it's brilliant, you know, and sometimes it's just really good ideas that I'll know could help more people with a particular detail than I may be doing in you know the current collection or the current piece that it could apply for. So feedback is always welcome, and you know, even constructive criticism if it's not working, like why is it not working? Why um you know, what could we do to improve our clothes? And again, like we are trying to help the majority. We can't help every single solitary person at this point. So yeah, we're always open and we're always learning. And if we can apply these the feedback to our collection, then we will.
Awesome. Thank you. So
Garrison, can I also add? Ooh,
yes,
can I
yes,
also
of
add something in
course.
there?
Of course.
Thank you. Also, when I was at Juniper developing Yarrow and Ulex, in addition to fitting with people with disabilities, we also did wear testing, and sometimes those are used interchangeably. But we had a big emphasis on making sure the product actually worked for the purpose that it was being used for. So if it was a track jacket, and Garrison actually did some wear testing for us, but if it was a track jacket that it could be used to work out in and be active in, and not just that it fit properly, but it also functioned properly too.
All right. So I do want to proceed to the next question. And so that way we can leave some time for the audience to ask any questions that they would like. So this is a big question that comes up in the adaptive fashion world. How do fashion brands ensure affordability and accessibility of adaptive clothing for a wide audience?
I can start on this.
Okay.
We have this is a challenge that kind of always has us beating our heads against the wall, because you know, as we've all talked about, it's difficult to create one product that's going to work for a lot of people. Once you do, you know, you also have to consider for us, we know that the vast majority of our customers are people that typically have very high medical bills, and spend a lot of time dealing with insurance companies and things like that. And so for us to ask them to fork over additional dollars that could be used in other places for an adaptive clothing item that may not be medically necessary, it has to be functional enough to make it worth their while, and it has to be at a price point that is somewhat accessible. We've also had the challenge of trying to balance ethical manufacturing processes and you know, quality fabrics and our values around manufacturing as a company, and translating that into a product that is still affordable. We've had challenges with manufacturing in the US, manufacturing in-house, outsourcing overseas, and trying to balance, you know, what is the most important value here that we can provide to our customers. You know, if we can make a really great functional product, you know, even if it's a hoodie and it costs $150, that's not our customer. Like, our customers can't afford that. You know, we are trying to meet them at a more mass market price point. But at the same time, as a very small company, we will never be able to match a Walmart price point or a Target price point. And so we have to find some kind of balance in there. And it's taken a long time for us to be able to reach some middle ground, to where we manufacture certain products overseas, that in order to, we feel like these factories have, you know, they work with larger brands, they have the certifications, they have the auditing, and we feel comfortable enough to where the process is transparent, that we know that we're not involved in manufacturing that we don't feel is ethical. But at that point, we can bring in a product that is something that a customer can purchase off our website without having to worry if insurance is going to cover it. We've also had some products that, you know, are more simpler in construction, that we can maintain the manufacturing process in the United States. And that is something that is important to us as well. So it's a difficult ongoing challenge, but it can be done. And if we're, a team of 5 people can do it, then larger companies can certainly do it as well. So I think it's just something that people, you have to keep working at it.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to share? Okay, Izzy, you can share.
Yeah, so Saba said a lot that I'm in the same situation. Um, a lot of our clothing has a lot of detail, like we do like winter coats, for example, and parkas. And there's a lot of, you know, detail, fabric, construction that goes into it. So it's really hard to come at a lower price point when we're not doing like again like we're not Walmart or Target or anything like that. So getting our price point to that level is impossible. But moving forward, we are really trying to bring our prices down, and that's only going to happen as we scale. So there is kind of a big jump from being in a place where you can't do it to a place where you can. So, money has a lot to do with it in terms of being able to afford the kind of quantities that are required for offshore production. And then, keeping standards to a point where you want it to be. And so like there's a lot, and I think a lot of people don't understand um, the the costs involved, and that we're not in this to rob people of the money that they have. It's just the expense that it actually takes to do what we do really adds up. So, but I think over time, we're all learning and we're all, getting there. So I think with patience from both on from us as well as the consumer, things are going to get better as we're able to scale price wise.
Thank you. Thank you. So we do have a few questions in the chat that I would like to get to. The first question is from Lucy. She's a medical student currently applying to residency in physical medicine and rehabilitation. So her question was, in your opinion, what can I do to increase awareness of adaptive clothing options among my future patients? So I'll answer, and then if anybody else would like to provide her with an answer, that's fine as well. So one of the things you can do to increase awareness of adaptive clothing options to your future patients is exposing them to it initially. So like working with the occupational therapist at your rehabilitation center and letting individuals try adaptive clothing on and see how it works for them, at least on a functional aspect. I just know from my experience, especially when I was in rehabilitation, I didn't know adaptive clothing exists because there was no samples or none that they could have offered to me at that time. But with brands such as Is Adaptive, Spoonie Threads, and all the other adaptive clothing brands, Open Style, um, with that said, there are options, and I think one of the things we can do at from the rehabilitation center per aspect is start purchasing some of these items so that way we can have our patients explore them and see if it works for them. But if anybody else have an answer, feel free.
Hi, Garrison. I'd love to jump in here. And part of what Open Style Labs does is we host workshops with the community online. And I find, I think Izzy and Saba said this already, that you see the feedback and a lot of crossover, but we also see that within our workshops as well, and how maybe, like something for someone who's 18 who has a spinal cord injury could help someone that is 65 and has MS. And not only does it build community, but within these workshops, people share ideas and hacks and things that have worked for them. And then also in our on our Instagram, we love sharing, updates in inclusive fashion and adaptive fashion and kind of highlighting people within the community. So, part of what we do is we also try to also bring resources of, adaptive brands that we share through our newsletter. So we're really trying, and if they want to follow us, we try to bring those up as much as possible.
All right. So thank you
And
for that.
to that point as well, if you want to help support us, those of us that are wearing these clothes out in the field, again, follow me, Dave Stevens Speaks, or follow anybody else in the Runway of Dreams family that you can see on those links, all of those models. With amazing things coming out like Victoria's Secrets lines, like we are on the cusp of a revolution, thanks to the designers that are in this room and those that are going to school and getting the education for designing and the internships that Runway of Dreams is providing. And you can go to the Runway of Dreams website and just look at any of the supporters and click on those links for more information on the products, or go to Silverts, or go to Cool Away Sports, or go to Izzy Adaptive, to get those things out there. But when you see a guy like me, like, I'm going to be at the Super Bowl in 2 months, on Radio Row, seeing at all these things, wearing, these kind of clothing. And so, I look forward to, if anybody wants me to wear their things, to send them to me. I'll wear them when I'm around celebrities. And if we tag and share and utilize, so if a guy without legs can not look so schleppy at these things, there's hope for people with disabilities out there. So that's one of the bigger things, is to share and see and like, and to if there's links to those shirts that I do, to those brands, by all means, help us out, help all of the designers and everybody that makes adaptive clothing.
And also, before each of you leaves, can you drop like information that where people can find y'all, whether it's, a link to your website or an email, because I'm sure individuals would like to reach out, after post this webinar. So there's two more questions that I'll ask based on what was dropped in the chat. Mike Mignatas said, for people in wheelchair, pants with elastic waist and high back, what styles do you make? Just jeans? I am looking for dress slacks and possibly shorts for the summer. Okay, is?
Yeah, well, we carry elastic waist jeans, chinos, dress pants, as well as elastic waist shorts. So yeah, you can find us at isadaptive.com.
All right. And moving forward, the last question of the day will be, do any of you have any recommendations for clothing with adaptations for self-catheterization for females? I have known many women that adapt their own clothing and have seen some commercially available. However, they have since gone out of business. I appreciate any resources, and thank you all for hosting, participating in this webinar, and the work that you do. Right.
We don't have anything at the moment, but what people can do is just take their pants to a tailor and have a zipper inserted in the crotch area, which will enable the garment to open up in that spot. So sometimes, if you can't find anything on the market, you can always take your garments to a tailor and have them adapt things to make it work for you.
I'd love to add, there's a line called Capable Clothing where she designed it specifically for incontinence as well. I just put it in the chat.
All right. And Izzy, if you don't mind dropping the link to your website in the chat, that would be appreciated. I know Michael inquired. Oh, Tracy already did it. She's ahead of us.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, that is all now. Does anybody have any final remarks they would like to make prior to the conclusion of this? I mean, I would like to thank each of the panelists for volunteering their time to inform us and educate us on the importance of adaptive clothing. I'll also share the link with everyone if y'all want to rewatch it, or if y'all missed something. The link will be up and posted by tomorrow morning. And yeah, so I'd like to thank everyone. And if anyone has any remarks, feel free to make them now. But this will be the conclusion.
Thank you very much, Garrison, for a wonderful group. And thank you. I learned a lot from the panelists as well. So thank you very much for having me.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you,
Garrison. Great
everyone.
work.
Yep. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice seeing you, Dave.
And thank everyone for coming. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me as well.
Thank you.
Garrison, this is Jen. I have a separate question. I need to
Yes.
get access to the boxing class. If you can get back to me by email.
Okay, no problem. Or LinkedIn. Does LinkedIn work? I just messaged you back, I believe, on LinkedIn.
Lovely. Thank you. That's
All
all
right,
right.
so I'll
I will
send you
go to
the
LinkedIn. Thank you.
yes, I'll
Happy
send you the
holidays.
information.
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
happy holidays and thank you for coming.
Thank you.